reason I wanted to do this was I thought, there's certain things that we hear about Tasawwuf, Bay'ah, and all of these different types of things. And it's better for us just to understand what it is. Is it, like for example, the question is, do you have to do bay'ah to go to Jannah? Some people say if you don't have a shaykh, your shaykh is shaitan, and these types of things. I mean, there's a reason that people make that statement, but yes, you can go to Jannah without being bay'at. Of course, you can go to Jannah without being bay'at. It's not farz, it's not wajib, and any of those types of things. So now the question is, now why are we doing this? Okay, why are we doing this? You get pressured. You see other people doing it. I don't think it's not that many people that do it anyway nowadays. But let's just understand from the beginning, and what is it? And I'm just going to try to talk from Quran, Sunnah, and fiqh, what the fuqaha have said. Inshallah, you can understand these things. I think we'll go over it for a few weeks, inshallah. And then after that, I have some other book that I got that Qadar of Murata Yusuf had given. We'll go through that as well. And then, we'll resume. See, does anybody actually, do we really want to put in the work? Do we not? If anybody else is interested, inshallah, ask them to come. No problem. Come, you could share this recording with them as well. But the thing that I ask is consistency. If somebody is just like, either udhar, then either udhar, like don't waste my time. Okay. So the first thing is, what are the main sources of Islam? The main sources of Islam are Quran and Sunnah. Okay. And then the books of fiqh, and by extension the ulama. When I mean the books of fiqh, they have qiyas in them, right? And who are those who write the books of fiqh? It's the ulama. So by extension, we have the ulama. Fiqh can never be separated from the Quran and the Sunnah, because fiqh is the manifestation of the Quran and the Sunnah. Like it is the Quran and the Sunnah are the ingredients, and the resulting thing that you get from Quran and Sunnah is fiqh, right? So part of fiqh is also akhlaq, adab, all of that, right? How you are with people. So you can't separate these things. Similarly, just like the Quran and Sunnah can't be separated from fiqh, you can't separate the Quran and the Sunnah from ulama. What was Imam Bukhari if he wasn't an alim? What was he, right? Where do you get the Sunnah from? Who recorded it? Ulama. Okay. Now, when we look at our deen, there is a legal outward form to our deen, right? And there's also spiritual aspects to our deen as well. This was explained by Qadi Muhammad Tayyib, rahimahullah ta'ala. If you read Khutbat, Hakim al-Islam, and then you read it? Okay, Khutbat, Hakim al-Islam. It's his books. It's his bayans. In there he explains that each act of worship has an inner form and an outer form, and it has a ruh, it has a spirit. Okay? There's a shell, and then there's a spirit. When the outer form is acted upon properly, when the outer form is presented, and is coupled with the proper spirit, it comes to life, and it results in a unique connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each act of worship has its own unique effect, right? Salat has its own effect. Inna salata tanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkar. It keeps you away from indecency. Fasting gives you a special level of taqwa. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba alal ladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Right? Right? So this special level of taqwa that comes because the whole day you're not eating. Why? Because Allah's watching. If I give you a kajur 1 minute before, what's the difference between fasting 16 hours and 9 minutes and 16 hours and 8 minutes? There's no difference. Practically, there's no difference. But no one will eat the kajur. Well, how could I? I'm going to break my fast. That's taqwa. That's how we need to be in every other thing in our life. Every other thing, the same Allah is watching you. The same Allah is watching you eat the kajur 1 minute before. That same Allah is watching you do X, Y, and Z. Right? That's what fasting does. Zakat purifies greed. Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِيَشْهَدُوا مَنَافِعَ لَهُمْ. Right? People go for Hajj so they could figure out the benefits of Hajj. You have to go and you have to see what his benefits are. Right? With different acts of worship, when done with the proper spirit, they will give you a special, unique connection with Allah. Both the outer and the inner form of these things are equally important. For example, Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, he says, مَنْ لَمْ يَدَعْ قَوْلَ الزُّورِ وَالْعَمَلَ بِهِ فَلَيْسَ لِلَّهِ حَاجَةٌ فِي أَنْ يَدَعْ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ. That if a person does not leave false speech and acting upon it, then Allah has no need for them to give up their food and drink regarding fasting. Sure, a person still must fast, and legally you could check the box, my fast was valid, but you didn't get the spirit of the fast. You understand? No. That's preliminary for you. Number 2, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had 4 primary responsibilities towards it. Number 1, recite the Quran. Right? Khadija, هو الذي بعث في الأميين آياتك. Right? To recite the Quran to the people. In the second one, in the second, third, and fourth time it comes in the Quran, وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ comes. Right? But in the first place when it comes in the Quran, يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابُ وَالْحِكْمَةِ comes. Teaching the book and teaching wisdom. Reciting the Quran, teaching the Quran, teaching hikmah, how to apply the Quran, and then teaching tazkiyah. Not teaching, but purifying the people. Tazkiyah. Okay? These are Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's 4 responsibilities. Now, tazkiyah, it usually comes first, 3 out of the 4 times. Why? A person doesn't need to be an alim in order to achieve this state of purity. That would be too hard for everyone. However, in the first place, when Ibrahim a.s. makes dua, the reason that teaching is mentioned before tazkiyah is because one of the best ways for a person to achieve tazkiyah is through learning. This is a big part of what suluk is. Okay? Towards the very end of Rasulullah's life, Jibreel alayhi salam came and he questioned Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in front of the Sahaba in order to, number 1, summarize the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. What are the teachings of Rasulullah? 4 questions were asked. Ya Muhammad, akhbirni anil Islam. Ya Muhammad, akhbirni anil Iman. Then, akhbirni anil Ihsan. And then last, akhbirni anil Sa'ah. Tell me about the day of judgment. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam answered this with another purpose. It also showed the Sahaba what can be accomplished by acting upon the teachings of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's life. What was ihsan? An ta'budallaha ka'annaka tarah. Okay? So verbally it was explained. Acting on Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's life mission will lead you to ihsan, which is an ta'budallaha ka'annaka tarah, that you worship Allah as if you are seeing Him. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. At least you know that He's watching you if you can't reach that state. And also practically this whole situation of Jibreel alayhi salam coming to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know this hadith of Jibreel where he came and he was dressed in white and his hair, he looked clean. So he's not a traveler because he would have been dusty. But nobody recognized him and he cut through and he went and he sat in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam like this. And where did he put the hands? The muhaddithun, some say he put his hands on his thighs, others said he put on Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's thighs, some say that in the first it was like this and this or this, this, right? And he sat in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When a person reaches ihsan, what can happen? Jibreel alayhi salam started out as a teacher to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? He started out as a teacher to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an amazing student. At the end of his life, the teacher sat in front of the student as a student. Right? And if you see when Nabi, Wallahu A'lam, but to me, this is what it says. That Iman and Islam, when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he explained what they were, Jibreel alayhi salam said, Sadaqta. The Sahaba said, we're amazed. That he's asking the question and then he's answering, like he's quizzing Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what about Ihsan? Jibreel alayhi salam didn't respond, he didn't say Sadaqta. Right? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam just said what Ihsan is, then he moved to the next question. Because ihsan is something that a human being can achieve, a mukallaf being can achieve. Otherwise, the angels, they have that. There's not that hijab, there is that hijab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's not the way that we have it. Right? There's communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, etc. The angels already have that. So I mean, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam reached a level that the angels don't have. Ihsan, different way. Through Iman and Islam, acting upon it. Okay? So, I had that all on the next slide, right? Ihsan is synonymous with tazkiyah. So these three questions, Islam, Iman, Ihsan is synonymous with tazkiyah. So what we learn from this is that Ihsan, tazkiyah, spirituality can never be separated from the deen and the sharia. Rather, the legal framework is the body or the container into which we fill ruhaniyat and spirituality and awareness of Allah. When this happens, right, when we fill the outer forms of our worship with ruhaniyat, with spirituality, this results in purity from sin, depth in our worship, excellence in our character, and whatever we do, and deep love for Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Understood? So these are why these two things, they can't be separated. Iman, Islam is the outer form of our actions, right? And the inner state that we have, this is ihsan. You can't have one without the other. You can't say I'm thinking about Allah all the time and be like one of these, goofy people you'll see in an arbor sitting around reading Rumi and committing zina and like you can't do that either, right? Just like a soul, the same analogy, soul and body. A soul can't float around in the air, it needs a body to be into. What is death? The death is separation of the soul from the body. If there's no body, there's no life, right? And what we call life, that's death, separation of the soul from the body. The soul needs a body to be in. So our acts of worship are not, our ruhaniyat is not accepted if it's not coupled with the way that Rasulullah showed us. You understand? Right? So the fiqh is needed, the deeds are needed, along with that, the jazba and the connection to Allah and the love for Allah needs to be in these things. So ihsan, tazkiyah, tasawwuf. Now, Abul Hasan Ali Nadwi rahmatullahi alayhi, he said no other science has been damaged more by the name than tasawwuf. And he writes, he said, I wish the word tasawwuf was never introduced. Why? Because the concept is already mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. In the Quran it's called tazkiyah, and in the Sunnah it's called ihsan. This is the exact same thing as tasawwuf. But the introduction of this word confused so many people and led to so many people dismissing the whole science. Now the word is there, you could use it. I'm just commenting on it. I'm just saying that this is not anything different than Quran and Sunnah, right? It's not some special ilm that is like, exclusive and this and that. It's from Quran and Sunnah. Now, in order to achieve ihsan and tazkiyah, there's many steps that are needed. The very first thing is the shahada. That removes impurity other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why when somebody does bayat, what's the first thing they do? They read the kalima, right? Then there's many other steps which allow for growth by removing sins and removing blameworthy traits. For example, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. رواه Muslim. Imam Muslim narrates Rasulullah said a person will not enter Jannah if they have a speck of pride in their hearts, right? So we know that they'll enter Jannah, like eventually with the kalima, but this is saying that a person is not worthy of Jannah. It's such a big thing that you shouldn't even be, this glue, you shouldn't even be worthy of Jannah if the person has pride in her, right? So just like it's fard to pray salah, if the Quran tells us, Inna Allah, Inna Allah mutakabbirin, Inna Allah mustakbirin, what is it? وينجي الله الذين اتقوا بمفازهم لا يمسهم ولا من الله على كل شيء ولا من أولئك هم الخاسرون. What is it, man? أليس في جهنم مثوى للمتكبرين, etc. Right? Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says لا تباغضوا ولا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا. The Quran says don't backbite. Isn't this haram? The Quran says don't be prideful. Is this haram? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions jealousy in the Quran. من شر حاسد إذا حسد. The people with the jealous person, they're being cursed. Allah's protection is being sought from. Aren't these things haram? Just like Allah says, كُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Allah commands us in the Quran, كُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Be with the truthful people. Be with the friends of Allah. Isn't this fard then? Right? So just like Quran is the Quran commands salat, zakat, outer things, Quran also commands states of the heart as well. The Sunnah also commands states of the hearts from us as well. Understand? So now, let's talk about tazkiyah in the time of Khairul Qurun, in the time of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala. They epitomized tazkiyah to the extent that deen was complete with them. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said on one of the last revelations, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. Today I have completed deen. I have completed upon you deen, for you deen. Akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum. And I have completed my favor upon you. Wa raditu lakum al-Islam. This was a mission that started from the time of Adam alayhi salam. Each prophet came and built into this edifice, and in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life it was completed. As you know from the hadith, which Rasulullah said that my example is the example of a huge building that was built, and people went in to see the building and there was one brick missing, and they said, I wish that it would be so nice if this brick was here. I'm that brick that filled this, right? Anything that I've said, is it all like Bukhari, Muslim, ahadith, right? Okay. So after 3 generations, the responsibility of passing on tazkiyah, passing on the spirituality, it shifted to the ulama rather than the generation as a whole. Why was the Sahaba's generation and the Tabi'un and the Tabi'un, why are you saying that their whole generation had this responsibility? Because Rasulullah stamped them with his approval. Khairu ummati qarni. Right? Now these generations, they didn't last too long. We think, like the Sahaba, and when did the last Sahabi die? Who was the last Sahabi that died?
This is Osama bin Zayd.
No. Abu Tufayl, 120. Abu Tufayl. But one generation, how did you get this in your hair? What happened? Should we cut it out? But when Mama comes, we'll have her do it. How did it end? How? When the majority of the people were no longer Sahaba, the Sahaba's qarn kind of ended, right? When the Tabi'un, when the majority of the people were no longer Tabi'un, the majority of people were Tabi'un, that qarn ended. When the majority of the people were no longer Tabi'un, the majority of the Muslims, that qarn. So it wasn't that. 180 or so. Because we say, look, between Imam Abu Hanifa and between Imam Abu Hanifa's death and Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad's death, 180s when they passed away. We say many of the Masail changed. We say why? Because the halat changed. The question is 20, 30 years, how are the halat going to change? Because in that time, Khairul Qurun ended. Understand? So maybe around like 160, 170, 180, that's when this time ended. After this, the next coming generations, they're not stamped with this approval from Allah's Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, the responsibility of conveying this tazkiyah, this goes on to the ulama. Okay? Prior to this, people were experts in all the branches of deen. What did Imam Abu Hanifa define fiqh as? Al-fiqhu ilmu ma laka wa ma alayk. Fiqh is a knowledge of that which is for your benefit and that which is against you. And this applied to all of the sciences. Okay? Shah Ismail Shahid, he says, ليس الاجتهاد عندنا منحصر في الفقه المصطلح بل له عموم في كل فن. He said that ijtihad, well, I'll add something. Okay, now we'll come to ijtihad. After these generations, people felt a need. The ulama had to specialize now, right? Because the time is over. So now you see there's 5 main branches of deen. There's aqaid, then there's ibadat, muamalat, muasharat, this is fiqh, and then there's tazkiyah. For all of it, we need all of it, right? Scholars began to specialize. And in their specialization, what they did is they began to do ijtihad. Not in aqidah, but you'll do ijtihad in the other things. To why? All of the sciences of deen, they're an effort to convey to you what existed organically in Khairul Qurun, in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's time. That's what it is. So, like in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's time, he wasn't sitting people down and reading Nurani Qaida with them, right? But Nurani Qaida is an effort in order to convey how to read, right? He wasn't teaching Quduri to the people. That is an effort to inculcate what existed organically in Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Similarly, Tazkiyah also is an effort, the science of Tazkiyah is an effort to pass on what existed organically or recreate what existed organically in Rasulullah's lifetime. You get what I'm saying, right? You don't get it, just ask. And so in all of this, the ulama began to use their ijtihad, meaning their own thought process in finding new ways to present this science to the masses. That's ijtihad, okay? So, Shah Ismail Shahid said, ليس الاجتهاد عندنا منحصر في الفقه المصطلح. Ijtihad is not restricted to the thing that we call fiqh only. Usually we think the mujtahid imams. He says, بل له عموم في كل فن. Rather, ijtihad exists in every science. نعم لكل أهل فن في طريق على حدة في إلحاق المسكوت بالمنطوق. Yes, every a person of every science, they have their own independent way in joining that which is not spoken about, meaning those things that are implied and understood, with that which is explicitly mentioned, right? فجميعها علوم شرعية أئمتها مريدون من الغيب ومقلدون متبعون للحق. He says, so all of it is the ilm of Sharia, and all of the imams, they are hoping for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, and they're all pursuing the haqq. Okay, so as this science emerged and we can codify it, now names for tazkiyah emerged. علم التوبة, علم الإحسان, علم التزكية, علم التصوف, علم الطريقة, علم السلسلة. So in essence, we're just going to end after this. Next week or 2 weeks, we'll talk about, instead of going and trick-or-treating, we can meet here, inshallah. I'm sure Muslims will have some fall festival for the kids. Right? But anyway, the last thing we'll start with ijtihad. Sunnah is like a pharmacy, and it provides many different types of medicines that a doctor can utilize to treat those around them. Okay? But a doctor has to know how much medicine to give. So if the basis of something is within the sunnah, that thing is, you can never call that thing a bid'ah if the basis of that is called a sunnah. Right? Where are you going? He's going somewhere, so you go with him?
Yeah, I'm gonna get a tissue.
He's going to, okay, you can go with him, but you have to come back, okay?
Okay.
Alright. So, the Sunnah, if something is found in the Sunnah, the basis is found in the Sunnah. If the basis is found in Rasulullah's life, you can no longer call that bid'ah. Right? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was dealing with people, with the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, who were the perfect followers. Right? And so Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he tailored a plan for them. Recognizing that people will be different, and even with the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, he would prescribe different things to different Sahaba. For example, what is the best action? Ayyul amali afdal. This question was asked with so many Sahaba and so many different answers were given. Right? So the Sunnah is also a pharmacy in which we will find so many different prescriptions for a person to inshallah follow. Right? So if the basis is found in the Sunnah, I'll give an example. Would Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam make dua after Salah? Ijtimai dua after Salah. Was it his general practice? Huh?
No.
I mean, some say yes, some say no. Like Allahumma anta salam.
Huh?
Allahumma anta salam, dua, right?
No, but would he make ijtimai dua
No.
or would he say silently? He would make dua.
Yeah.
But that's his own, you could say, wird or wazifa or something. Like he would read these. But so Allahumma anta salam, yes, after every Salah. But would he ijtima'an, would he do dua after? No, he wouldn't. But did he do it at times? Yes, he did. Right? At times he did. The fact that he did this at times, this cannot be called un-Islamic. So now even if somebody does it after every Salah, leaving it here and there only, just, you can't call it bid'ah. Why? Because they're saying the needs of the people have changed and people no longer sit after Salah and make their own dua. Okay, we'll just make dua. Right? So the Sunnah is a pharmacy, and it has a vast variety of medicines that a doctor can utilize to treat those around them. And so based on the times, different aspects of the Sunnah are going to be utilized more due to the needs of the people. So for example, in Imam Ghazali's time, what was the milieu? What was the general social study? Was that a time when Muslims were struggling? Imam Ghazali's time. Historically.
Yes.
Was it? Was it struggling?
No.
They were powerful, right?
Yeah.
They were Islamic empires at the time. So the problem with people was overindulgence in the dunya. That's why Imam Ghazali is so strict on staying away from the pleasures of the dunya, right? But now look at Ibn Arabi. They lived at a different time, different type of people. It's more like, it's more like go through your life, but remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through every moment, right? Different things are going to be emphasized at different times. I'm in trouble for this one, but milad bashing that some of our akabir apparently did through their words, right? That may have occurred. It was due to what was happening at that time, right? And so again, I said apparently. What was happening at the time, that so much emphasis was put on certain things, avoiding certain things. And when that karaha is gone, or if you take it care of, or if there's people who do something properly, without doing tajawuz and hudud, or going beyond those hads, or those limits, then they won't say anything. You don't see the, ulama going and complaining about the habaib. It's not a thing. Or complaining about milad as practiced in the Arab world, by and large. It's not really done, right? Maybe, I don't know if there's, makahib over there or not. I mean, say generally, there may be in some places there's the job to ulama to speak up against them if people are doing it wrong. But there was a certain time for that, right? Certain things, even some things that were emphasized a lot during the time of colonization, may not be emphasized as much too, right? So the Sunnah, it's a pharmacy. And the ulama at the time will look at the needs of the people and prescribe whatever is needed. If enough people benefit from one treatment plan, it became known as a tariqah. This is the same in fiqh, it's called mazhab. In Tasawwuf, tazkiyah is called tariqah. If enough people benefit from one alim or one group of ulama, their approach to the Quran and the Sunnah as it pertains to fiqh, we call this a madhab. That's what it is, right? Madhab is not even the work of one man, it's the work of many, right? Similarly, if many people benefit from the approach of a group of ulama in tazkiyah, it's called a tariqah. You could call it a mazhab if you want as well. Which mazhab do you follow in tasawwuf? It would just be a weird istilah, right? And there's no mushah, there's no mashah in istilah. You could use whatever technical terms you want. If you're in the fun, you could make up your own terminology as well. So tariqah is what's done. The methods are going to vary from time to time. One generation, overexpression of adab. Others, suppression of the nafs. Others, they express zikr, right? All of this I got from Maqalati Ihsani. This is the book written by Manazir Ahsan Hilali. Okay? So the methods, so sometimes there will be overexpression of adab. People are Batamis. Probably in our time, adab is not, understood. The adab that people do inconvenience the people who they're trying to do adab of. Like I went somewhere with someone. My shoulder was hurting, okay? So the whole time said, let me carry this for you, let me carry this for you. I'm not even that type of guy. When we're getting out of the plane, he gets his bag, he just keeps walking. He doesn't take my bag. That's the one place where it could have helped me, And then when I take my bag down, let me take your bag. I don't need you to take my bag. I don't need you to take it down either. But if you're gonna do something, do that, right? So adab is something is missing in this time. Wallahu a'lam. We have to figure out. That's for the Shaykh to figure out. Now keep in mind, there's no tariqah without sunnah and sharia. Tariqah means going into the sunnah, going into the sharia, utilizing things from there to formulate a plan for people to follow. Nowadays, okay? Like, again, to just hammer the point home further, if you don't understand, there's different diets. There's a keto diet, Atkins diet, Mediterranean diet, carnivore diet, all of these things, right? All of them, what were they? Somebody developed a plan, other people began benefiting, then they gave it a name, right? So this is what a silsila is. Now, essentially what the shuyukh would do is they would put extra emphasis on some aspect of the sunnah in order to drive people towards the goal of ihsan. This is the vitamin that's lacking in this zamana. This is what there's a deficiency in. Let's emphasize this so much so that it will drive people towards ihsan. The other things are in balance, right? Or there's 8 things in balance. There's 8 things that are deficient, but one is critical. This could kill a person spiritually. The others, chalne do, right? That's why things are emphasized. That's why the tariqas, they have different types of zikr and different types of that. Understand? Inshallah, we'll stop there for this week. Next time we'll talk about, inshallah, how to achieve ihsan. And we'll talk about good company and the company of one's shaykh, etc. Inshallah. What time is Jama'at today? Today is only have 10 minutes. We'll just make dua today. Also to listen to the tafsir, inshallah. So, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina حبيبنا وحبيبنا وبشرنا وبشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك رب اغفر وارحم وانت خير الراحمين اللهم انت ربي لا اله الا انت خلقتني فعبدك وعلى عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت اعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت ابوء لك بنعمتك علي واقول لك بذنبي ربنا لا اله الا انت تسبح بك يا الله I was all to achieve this gift of nafsi يا الله يا الله These are free to share this with anybody that you think will benefit and not take things out.